Hi everyone, welcome to Joy's Knowledge. If you like this video, please like, share, comment and subscribe. Press bell icon for future notifications. In this video, we are going to talk about general teaching strategies for students with intellectual impairments. How does the learning occur for the students with different abilities? Learning occurs to its maximum when all students of different abilities learn and socialize together in classrooms and other school settings. When initially learning a new concept or skill, students characteristically require cues and prompts, make numerous mistakes, and need corrective feedback. What are the stages in learning? With instruction and practice, students gradually become able to conceptualize information or execute the skill. This is clearly evident when they are learning to decode and recognize words in print. At first, students read each individual words slowly, often saying the wrong sound or leaving out a sound. Teach us how to model letter sound correspondence and sounding out procedures. Gradually, young readers decode or recognize words with greater speed and accuracy as a result of instruction and practice. Ultimately, students are able to read fluently many varied types of reading material at school and home. Learning to read exemplifies the stages of learning through which students pass when learning a new concept or skill. These stages are skill acquisition stage, fluency building stage, and maintenance and generalization stage. The first stage is skill acquisition stage. Naive learners and the precision of developing teachers characterize the acquisition stage of learning. Students at this stage typically make frequent errors when attempting to use a target concept or skill, but gradually respond more and more accurately. Teachers provide effective instructional antecedents which are characterized in this stage of learning by extensive direction or guidance, prompts, and cues that assist students in responding accurately. There are two phases in acquisition stage. The first one is the introduction phase. It is characterized by precise demonstrations and guided practice using examples only. The second phase is the discrimination phase, which is characterized by introducing non examples to teach students to discriminate between target concept or academic role and other similar concept or academic role. The second stage is fluency building stage. This stage is characterized by the students maintaining high rates of accuracy and increasing the speed with which they respond. Once the students have demonstrated consistent, accurate responding, the focus of instruction changes to speed and accuracy. Teachers diminish the intensity of positive reinforcement. Initially, students are praised every time they successfully implement the skimming steps. As they become more accurate, the teacher praises them every two instances than every six. Teachers simply introduce the activity and monitor students' responses to ensure that they are responding with relative degrees of speed and accuracy. The third stage is maintenance and generalization. In this stage of learning, previously acquired concepts or skills are practiced for retention. Further, fading off and antecedent procedures and consequences continues the weaning process. The primary characteristic of the maintenance stage is that practice schedules are distributed over longer intervals of time. As the time interval between the sessions increases, the need to conduct a brief review of the target concept or academic rule increases. Before going to the strategies, we'll see the characteristics of children with intellectual impairment with regard to their IQ. Intellectual impairment is one of the most frequently occurring disabilities in today's educational scenario. Classification of students with regard to their IQ. Students who have mild impairment have an IQ range of 51 to 70 and are in many ways quite similar to their peers who are not impaired. Students who have moderate impairments have an IQ range of 36 to 50 and are more obviously developmentally delayed. Students who are moderately impaired can learn to take care of their personal needs and perform hands-on vocational tasks. Students who have severe impairment have an IQ range of 21 to 35 and are more dependent on others for basic needs. Students who are severely impaired can learn basic self-care and can contribute partially to self-support, usually under supervision. Students who have profound impairment have an IQ range below 20 and may be largely dependent on others for their care. What are the strategies for teaching? Preparation for experience in the learning environment best occurs when all students of different abilities learn and socialize together in classrooms and other school settings. In these instances, where all have a chance to achieve and receive instruction designed to develop and enhance successful living within the school and general community. Now we'll go for the general strategies for teaching. Keep up to date on the students' personal data and their accomplishments in therapy. Never assess a student's capabilities solely on the basis of their IQ or other standardized test scores, especially at the times of the IQ definition. Each student with impairment needs to be in an age or achievement appropriate learning environment with peers who are not impaired. After including the impaired student, the teacher, as an observer, should record the behavior that varies from the norm and which may indicate the need for referral for counseling and/or psychological intervention, including drug therapy, if necessary. Develop a protocol for the student to tell you when he or she anticipates a need for assistance. When it appears that a student needs help, ask if you can help. Accept a no thank you graciously. Be aware that a student with impairment may frequently be treated with therapeutic interventions that affect performance and speed. Acknowledge that high but realistic expectations should be maintained to encourage full realization of social and educational potential. Personal interaction with intellectually impaired students. To interact personally, the teacher should speak directly to the student with an impairment as you would any other student. Involvement with other children. The teacher should, where possible, get to know the non-impaired students, engaging them and providing them a connecting link between these students and the students with impairments. The teacher shouldn't be seen as a person who relates only to the student with impairment. Modeling for others. The teacher should be aware that his or her interaction with the impaired student will serve as a model for interactions for other students with impairment. This may be particularly important in assisting others in areas such as communicating with the student with impairment about behavior that does not appear appropriate in science teaching or learning activities. Backing off. Often interactions occur without the involvement of a teacher. At times, in fact, the presence of an adult may inhibit interactions, and it may be necessary to back off and let things happen on their own. Interactions in the context of school activities. It is important to observe the interactions of the student with others in the learning environment. The teacher should note and promote opportunities for interactions, even if that means revising plans for teaching skills to allow for spontaneous interactions and play. Remember that not all interactions are verbal. Cheering together, sitting together, and watching an event, or doing an activity, or working as a team field or laboratory to build something are all examples of non-verbal interactions. Now we'll go for teacher presentation. While presenting, the teacher should use a large amount of concrete materials to proceed in a small sequential steps and review each frequently. Provide prompt and consistent feedback. Test the intellectually impaired students' successes. Agreements such as attentive listening, mutual respect, the right to pause, and appreciation should be enforced. Recitation and field experiences. Depending on the degree of impairment, provide opportunities to practice skills in both normal environments versus contrived experimental situations. Consider alternate activities or exercises that can be utilized with less difficulty for the student but has the same or similar learning objectives. Provide opportunities to practice field skills in natural environments. Evaluation. Encourage students to use relaxation and other stress-reducing techniques during exams. Allow more time for the examinations. Record maintenance. Educational facilities for children with intellectual impairment have undergone tremendous changes in the past 2 decades. Multidisciplinary approach has been a great success in the overall development of children with special needs. Hence, the methods adopted, treatment underwent needs to be maintained for further reference. Recording means systematically documenting and storing of information collected from various sources using appropriate procedure. Purpose of recording: to improve the professional skills and techniques adopted for intervention, to evaluate the work of the organization, to facilitate supervision and training, to render effective and systematic service to beneficiaries. Records are aids to better administration. Types of records maintained include administrative records and educational, technical, clinical records. Administrative records are identification data, demographic data, past school history, family history, admission record, fees record, parents' undertaking, medical assistance, etc. Educational, technical, clinical records are checklist and assessment tools, lesson plans and task analysis, program implementation, evaluation and progress report, diagnostic report, attendance register, scoring system, parents meeting, timetable and homework, home-based training. What are the guidelines for maintaining records? Records should be small enough to meet the minimum need of the institution and large enough to meet the general objective. Kinds of records to be maintained should be finalized by the institution to have a uniform pattern of recording. Method and style of writing records should be uniform. Responsibility on writing record for the children should be the responsibility of the teacher in charge. Duties for supervision of records should be fixed by the institutional head. Person in charge should keep the records in such a way that the documents are available for others during the absence of respective teacher in charge. The school should maintain at least the minimum of records, which includes admission register, attendance registers of staff and students register, respectively. Account register, stock registers of consumable, non-consumable individual files including background information and programming updates. The class teachers should maintain IEP record for each child. Monitoring progress. Monitoring progress means recording of the child's progress when the child is learning. This will bring out the nil or slow progress of the child. This helps the teacher in error correction and error analysis. What is the procedure of monitoring? The first one is the test, teach, test process, finding correct level through the assessment, deciding goals, setting short-term and long-term objectives, implement the program, task analysis, material to be used and adapted, evaluation, all the above mentioned processes are recorded. All students with special needs are unique. Their needs may be recognized by teacher and parent observations and or assessment by a certified professional. Regardless of the manner by which needs are determined, teachers and school teams can implement strategies as soon as a student's need is realized. It is important to document and assess the effectiveness of strategies employed and revise them in order to achieve success. The strategies that develop for their classrooms should not be permanent. Instead, it should be scalable and flexible. Thank you.